This particular incident was back in 8th grade, but my mom's always been competitive about scholastic achievement. I wasn't bad at academics, but saved my competitive streak for more important things like kicking my friends' asses at Street Fighter. Anyway, the morning of the math test, I felt absolutely unwell. The conversation went something like this. Mom, I don't feel good. I need to stay home. No. She's from India. They straight up don't accommodate sick days. Hopefully it's changed since. I tried to explain America is more chill about these things, but somehow it didn't work. So I sped through the test, handed it in, ran out the door, with permission, and vomited in the first toilet I got to. Yeah, definitely going home for the day. As a result of subpar performance on said test, my grade for the quarter was an A. Q mom, an A is the same as a B+. You need to do better. I was pretty salty about the situation with the test, so like any 11-year with cable and my own room, I binge watched Toonami instead of paying attention to my math homework for the rest of that semester. Shockingly at the end of it, I had a B+. Mom wasn't pleased. Some kind of generic yelling later, I came back with, it's the same as an A. Welcome to the commutative property, Mom. To start, this is not malicious compliance against the Japanese police as it is against a customer from hell. Oh, and if the police are called to a dispute, they won't take sides, unless a law is being broken in front of them. That is for the courts to sort out. They just keep the peace, talk to the two parties, and try and work things out. Onto the story. In 2008, I was a club owner in Japan. I rented the place from a rascally old man who let me do pretty much what I wanted. The club had a motorized mirror bull hanging from the ceiling, a pool table, and projector there left over from the former renters that the landlord said I was free to use. I made a lot of money using the downtime. A club is usually wasted space during the day, setting up party space type events, after weddings, reunions, and the like. Here is an actual picture of one of the sit down type events. https://unga.com/dvir3rd. The tables would disappear at night and you have a dance floor. One party got a little rowdy, and during the festivities, the crazy host lady thought it was a good idea to pick up a chair and swing it over her head. Don't ask me why, she was very drunk. The arc of the swing launched the mirror bull into the air, smashing to the floor in 1,000 shiny pieces. After my staff cleaned up the broken glass, she promised to pay for it, and I thought that was that. I jumped online, found a like model on Amazon.jp, and added the price to their bill. I don't remember the price, but being motorized put it up past $100 with non-motorized versions selling for much less. About 3 hours after, a very angry host lady's husband shows up, receipt in hand, saying I scammed the drunk host lady and he was going to call the police and shut me down, and rabble. Our back and forth went on for quite a bit, and honestly I was getting a bit tired of his macho in your face attitude. He then said he would also talk to my landlord and get me evicted. I was at the eye-rolling stage and sarcastically said, "Oh, don't get him involved. You will regret making him mad." Unfortunately, sarcasm doesn't translate well in Japanese, and he jumped on my humor gaffe to say I was threatening his life and called the cops. The cops were totally professional, but a bit overzealous. In responding to the call, 3 patrol cars and 2 bikes showed up. I guess the guy made it out that I was in league with the mob, and I guess gauge in plus YAKUZA in the 1990s 2000s equals overkill. To listen to us together, then they separated us and got each side of the story. Then, just to be sure, the police talking to each of us switched places and asked all over again the same questions. Slowly the cars, one by one, went back to work, leaving only 2 motorcycle cops with us in a back and forth argument. All very tedious. Finally, one of the cops pulled me aside and said, "Look, he is willing to pay for the damage, but only if you apologize for threatening his life." Being American, where we see lawsuits everywhere, I was very reluctant to say such a thing. So I walked back to the man and the police and I asked everyone, if I apologize for him getting frightened, this whole business is done? Angry man has his arms crossed with a macho, smug "yeah bitch, say you're sorry" look on his face. The 2 policemen are also waiting for me to speak. Asterisk, I'm really sorry. Really so sorry you get scared so easily. Had I known, implying your weakness, I would have chosen my words more carefully. Damn if extremely polite Japanese can't turn into a slap in the face. Dude turns beet red, and I swear to you that the policeman on the left let his guard down just enough to let the corners of his mouth twitch into a grin, just for a moment. Then the policeman said, "He did as you asked, now time to go home." And they herded him to his car. Thank you very much for sitting through all of that. Hope nothing was lost in translation. For a bit of context, my daily commute is at minimum 2 hours. Yes, I know. I could go into details on why I haven't moved closer, but I won't right now. Today I woke up not feeling too well. Headache, a bit of fever and just not feeling too good. So I decided to stay home. I informed that I will be staying home, but since I have a lot of work to do, I'm going to work from home. My workload is insane tbh. Few minutes later I get an email from the boss saying that, since I said I was sick, I should take it as a sick day. Basically they don't want to pay me for working from home. That if I work they'll decide later on if that work from home is approved or not. Oh really? Well fine then. I am now back saying I was taking the day as a sick day then, because I'm not risking the chance of working and then not getting paid. Now, as I'm laying peacefully in my bed, my email is being flooded with things that need to be done. Simple things I could do if I was allowed to work. But, I'm not. So you're gonna have to wait until tomorrow if I'm feeling better so I can solve these things for you. So sorry. This just happened today. A little backstory. I work at a particularly green craft and fabric store. Every Thursday, we receive a truck. Truck day consists of unloading and organizing everything on the truck by hand, pushed down to us on a large roller ramp. The team I work with is wonderful, but the head manager of the store is a piece of work. During truck day she tends to just stand there and watch us all unload while yelling about how we're doing it all wrong. We are in fact following all the company procedures, so not wrong. Another thing to note is that corporate controls our air conditioning. I live in Maine, so it's always between 70-100% humidity all the time, which makes it feel a lot worse than it is. Corporate still hasn't kicked on our air yet, despite it almost July. Our backroom was almost 100 97, but the thermometer is a bit hard to read. 100% humidity. I was unloading the truck with 3 other people, and my boss was standing there yelling as usual. I started to feel symptoms of heat exhaustion and asked my boss if I could quickly get a drink of water. She told me I couldn't until the truck was completely unloaded, which was another half hour or so. She said something to me 30 seconds later, and I perfectly timed projectile vomited all over her. She started yelling at me and the rest of the team because we weren't helping her get cleaned up, to which they all responded along the lines of, "Well, you told her she couldn't go. You won't let me go get water, even though I'm having heat exhaustion? That's cool. I'll just puke on you instead." So this happened in college to me and my friends. We moved into a house from some small rental company based in the area after signing a year-long lease. House is great, no problems, but we were told a week or so after moving and we would have to send our rent checks each month by the 5th by mail to their new office in the town 120 miles over. Whatever, barely a problem, so we just go with it. So for the next 6 months or so we both mail our rent checks at the same time by the 1st of each month and never had any problems. Then one day my friend receives a call from the landlord saying we owe $100+ each in late fees because 2 months our rent checks came in the mail a day after they were due. They were definitely postmarked at least 3 days before that, but that's not the point. So he says, per the lease you each owe $50 for each month it is late, and so that is $200 total. And we said well it was definitely postmarked multiple days in advance, and it's not our fault the USPS didn't deliver it on time, and that we had no way to know that it wasn't delivered on time, so how could we be accountable for these fees? He responded with, "Go read the document. Per the lease your late fees are stated clearly. You have until next month to pay." Then he hung up. We pulled up our lease, and just as he asked us to do, we read it. He was right. Based on all we knew we each owed them $100. Damn. But, in a section regarding payment, clearly stated, we were to hand deliver our rent checks to their office, which was still addressed to their old office in town, and the address we were supposed to deliver them to was not the one they had us sending our checks to. So we called them back. We looked at the lease, and per the lease, we are not required to send checks to that office, but to this office insert old office address. So we will be bringing our checks there from now on, and will not be paying any late fees, because we technically never even agreed in the lease to mail our checks. The landlord flipped, saying we were being children, that this was unfair, and he was going to get our parents on the phone. He literally said that, despite the fact both our parents were obviously on our side and we were 20-ish-year-old people. We just said, well, if you want your rent money we will bring it to the location described in our signed lease, since as per the lease you need it delivered there, and we don't feel comfortable mailing them to unknown locations. Inevitably he buckled. He knew he was at fault and dropped the late fees and said we wouldn't owe any more late fees ever, so long as the envelope was postmarked on the right day. Every month after that we waited until the day before to mail them out, ensuring they wouldn't receive their money until at least a couple days after it was due. We stayed in the house the next year. Aside from this instance, they weren't too bad compared to some other college town landlords, and they changed the lease, so it couldn't happen again. Felt good. About 15 years or so ago, yours truly was working as a theater technician, stage, not operating, at an arts center which hired out upon occasion for corporate affairs of various sorts. The event was an insurance company holding a risk management conference, basically, to shout at their sales slime about not mis-selling financial products, or at least how to not get caught. Your standard corporate does fest, thinks I, but I had exams, and figured taking the gig would be a chance to revise. All is going pretty much to plan. Modulo the usual idiots who don't actually speak into the mic and the mumblers, but that is fairly normal for these things. Then Mr. Big Knob arrives. He thinks himself very senior, second under assistant to one of the assistants to the undersecretary for paperclip distribution, or something like that. Very full of himself, and very alpha. Conversation, in earshot of my boss and grand boss. Big Knob, son, I want you to put my laptop up on the big screen, and then don't touch it. I don't want you messing with the picture while I am talking, because I know you people like to mess around with senior people's presentations. Me. Fair enough. Picture, sound, and light, then leave it alone until you finish. Doesn't bother me. Big Knob, that's right. I don't want you touching anything. Me. Okay. Fine, thinking you utter prat, but easiest projection shift ever. Well, at the due time, Mr. Big Knob makes his way up onto stage, and I do my thing. House lights go down, lectern lights and mic come up, tab out and laptop to projector. We are off to a very tedious couple of hours of death by PowerPoint, thinks I. Turns out the guy is using Word, not PowerPoint, and this matters, because this guy puts up a page of basically unreadable text. Slide should not have more than about 5 lines, and proceeds to harangue the audience, while walking up and down the front of the stage ignoring the laptop, mostly inaudibly because he had not let me fit in with a lav, and in the dark, because he had told us he was going to use the podium, and I was not to touch the controls. Well, after 15 minutes or so, the laptop does what they do when left alone, and the screensaver kicks in. Gay BSDM porn, some of it featuring Big Knob as the bottom. 30 feet wide and 15 feet high appears behind him on the screen, and he had plenty of slides. I'm watching from the control room, maliciously sitting on my hands. I got no comeback at all from my management, but the look of horror on his face when he turned around was priceless, and I suspect the risk management lesson that was imparted was not quite the one he expected. The look on the CEO's face was interesting as well. The CEO actually came up afterwards and said he told you not to touch anything, didn't he? I said yes. CEO muttered, figures. Middle management tells technician not to interfere with his presentation. Gets exactly what he asked for. If you enjoyed the stories, slap the like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.